Hello, fellow metallurgists. My name is Alan, and I'm back on Heavy Metallurgy today to review the new Kamelot album. It's called The Awakening, and it was released on Napalm Records on March 17th, 2023. Kamelot is a power metal band out of Florida. They play in the kind of traditional European power metal style, but they also have a strong Gothic influence in their music. This permeates their stage attire, their visuals, their lyrics, quite a bit. If Gothic flavored power metal is not your thing, then this is simply not the band or the album for you. But if that combination sounds interesting, then please stick around and check them out. Kamelot has a pretty long and storied career at this point. They released several classic power metal albums starting in the late 1990s with The Fourth Legacy, their fourth album, and they released three more absolute bangers in a row with Karma, then Epica, and finally culminating in most people's favorite, the Black Halo, which is kind of the peak of their career. They did a couple more albums after this before switching vocalists to Tommy Karavik, an extremely talented vocalist, arguably the best in power metal today. Tommy sings with Seventh Wonder, who released a great album in 2022 called The Testament. So far, Kamelot has released three albums with Tommy behind the mic. These were Shadowthorn, Haven, and also The Shadow Theory from 2018. So it's been 5 years since we've had a studio album from Kamelot. With these last three albums, these are all good albums. At the same time, I don't feel like they quite live up to the band's legacy and the albums that they were releasing earlier in the 21st century. All three albums are good. I bought them as soon as they came out, being a huge fan of the band. I enjoyed them, played them a whole bunch when I first got them. But this is a case where the albums went onto the CD shelf and they very rarely ever come back off. It just kind of feels like the band is gotten in a little bit of a rut. You know, they have their niche with this Gothic flavored power metal, and they kind of stay in their niche. And as such, the albums have started to feel a little bit interchangeable, a little bit samey. If you were to pick a random song title from one of these albums and ask me which one it's from, I might have to guess a couple of times before I got it right. As such, when The Awakening was announced to be coming out, I was excited because this is obviously a band I love quite a bit. It's also a little bit apprehensive, though, because I was worried that it might just become yet another pretty good Kamelot album that would get played for a week or two and then kind of quickly forgotten. Well, I am very happy to announce that the band has delivered a very strong album. In fact, I think it may be their strongest since the Black Halo. There are some things working in this album's favor that keep it from feeling like another samey album that's just going through the same motions. First thing to note is the band is still working with Sasha Payeth in the studio. Sasha's worked with them ever since the Fourth Legacy, helping to produce, mix, and do other studio work. Sasha is great working with power metal bands. He's done tons of studio work over the years, and I don't think I've ever heard an album that he's worked on that sounded subpar at all. He's very, very consistent and gets a good sound every single time. Beyond that, the band is still very much working in their typical idiom. But it feels like this time they have employed some of the different tools they've used from throughout the years, and they've put them to good effect here. As we work through the song list, you'll see some good examples of this. So let's just take a quick run through the track order. The album starts out with the obligatory short symphonic instrumental piece. Yes, I think power metal bands are contractually obligated to start every album this way. You just have to deal with it. They're short. They don't do any harm. It's just a lead into the first track. In this case, you get two solid power metal tunes right off the bat with The Great Divide and Eventide. These are exactly what you expect from a band playing this style of power metal. You're going to have big sing-along choruses, double bass work, drum work really propelling those choruses forward, nice guitar solos. Good tracks, kind of what you're expecting. Track 3 is where it gets a little different. This one's called One More Flag in the Ground. It was the first single released from the album. And to be honest, I was a little confused with this song being chosen as the first single. It's a simpler song in structure. This is one that's very much meant to be kind of just a marching, anthemic tune where everybody can put their fist up in the air and slowly sing along and feel very empowered. One more flag in the ground. I am a soldier. I'm marching into battle. It's the kind of song you would expect to hear from a band more like Smash Into Pieces rather than a European power metal band. It's also exactly the kind of song that anime fans worldwide are going to rush to use to make music videos for, adding in clips from whatever their favorite anime series is. If anybody out there is thinking of doing this, I highly suggest using clips from Ruby, because Yang, rocking the fist magnums, she is the shit, absolutely. But getting back to the album, it's not my favorite song on the album, but it does serve a purpose in the track list here. It changes things up a little bit so that you're not just going back to another straightforward power metal tune. So I like that it introduces a little variation. This isn't completely outside of Kamelot's wheelhouse, but again, it shows that, they're moving around within that niche they occupy. After that, you get one of the best tracks on the album, Opus of the Night. This was the second single. This is a classic European power metal burner, exactly what you want from this style. It was cold the day they found you by the river. Broken dreams turned to eyes upon your cheek. The album then delivers the next tune, which is Midsummer's Eve. This is the first ballad on the album. I know ballads are a deal breaker for a lot of heavy metal fans. It's one of the reasons power metal isn't popular with some people. However, when they're done well, I have no problem with them. And Kamelot are extremely good at this kind of song. They've been doing them ever since at least Sailor Man's Hymn was back on the Fourth Legacy. This is a beautiful piece of music. Tommy's voice shines through. No problem with it whatsoever. It's a great track. And again, it's serving to keep things mixed up here a little bit. After the ballad, you have Blood Moon and Night Sky. Both of these are tracks that have a little bit of a surprisingly upbeat, kind of uplifting vibe to them, which is a nice change of pace again. If there's something that Kamelot's been a little guilty of in recent years, it's that they lean too hard into the goth angle sometimes. It works for them overall, but when they start really relying on that, I feel those end up being some of their weakest songs. They are trying to get a little too dark or moody or brooding. Some tracks they've used different, vocal effects to make it sound more creepy or mysterious or something. And those songs never really strike me as their best material. The band is talented enough that they don't need those types of gimmicks to make their songs work. Blood Moon and Night Sky are staying far away from that and doing something a little different that works quite well for them. After that, you've got The Looking Glass. This one has, kind of a simple keyboard intro to it that's very reminiscent of the intro to the song Karma, which is one of the band's best tracks ever. So it's kind of a nice little throwback to one of their classic songs without just copying the song or, duplicating it and what it did exactly. After The Looking Glass, you've got New Babylon, which immediately starts right from the first beat with this, very big, in-your-face, symphonic chorus of voices chanting and singing. Very dramatic, very epic sounding. So if you started to drift a little bit over the past two tracks, this will snap you out of it and wake you up right away. Again, it's within the band's idiom. It's not like they've never done something like this before, but they're only doing it once on this album. They're making it count. This song includes backing vocals from two talented female singers. You've got Simone Simmons from Epica, who has worked with the band on multiple occasions in the past. It also features Melissa Brudi from Ad Infinitum, and she's got a great voice as well. This is, again, the kind of tool you expect Kamelot to use pretty much every album, and they're doing it here tastefully, not doing too much of it, working it in at the right time. After you get through New Babylon, you have the second ballad, which is Willow. This is another one. It's a beautiful piece of music, absolutely gorgeous. If you don't like the ballads, you can skip them, but you're missing out. This is pretty music. There's nothing wrong with listening to something that just sounds pretty from time to time. Not everything has to be, a full-on, power metal, extreme metal rager of a track. It's okay to like the pretty songs too. Then the album wraps up with My Pantheon. This is a good standard European power metal song to bring us to a close. And this one also works in a slightly different tool from their past. This one's got a short section of more extreme metal vocals used. No one is credited with it in the liner notes, so I'm not sure who's doing it. But this is also kind of a callback to things the band have done in the past. For example, they used Shagrath from Dimmu Borgir on the Black Halo to represent one of the characters in one of the songs they were doing. So again, here it's kept to a good size. It doesn't drag out too long. It doesn't take over the song, but it's a nice callback. It's showing that, yes, we remember the tools that have worked well for us in the past, and we're going to break them out and use them here, but just in the right places, just in the right amount. The album then fades out with another instrumental as an outro. It's not necessary, but it bookends the album nicely with the instrumental intro. At the end of the day, you've got 52 minutes of very well done European power metal. Something here that really is making the album work is the track listing as well. You never have 3 or 4 sound-alike standard power metal songs in a row. They're constantly making sure that things are broken up, the tracks are distinct from each other. I think the track order does a lot to help the album quite a bit. And while 52 minutes may sound like a little bit long, like you're probably getting tired by the end, you really don't notice it on this album. There are no tracks that are dragging on for 7, 8, 9, 10 minutes or anything like that. Between the songs sticking to a reasonable length and varying the style just enough from track to track to make you keep paying attention, the 52 minutes go by pretty quickly. You get to the end of the album and you wouldn't have guessed that you just spent almost an hour working through it from start to finish. So the album works extremely well. Is there anything negative to say about it? If I'm going to nitpick, the one thing I would like to see a little bit different is in the mix. I feel like the drums in particular are a little loud and upfront. Between the drums and Tommy's excellent vocals, and all the symphonic effects they have going on. They've got violins, they've got cellos, and again, they're not dominating the music. They're used tastefully, they're put in the right places. But with all that stuff going on and the drums and vocals a bit loud in the mix, it means that the guitar and bass are kind of relegated to the background, only coming forward, when there's a guitar solo to be done. So it'd be nice to see maybe a little more balance there. The band is using a newer drummer. Alex Landenberg has been with the band for several years, but this is his first studio recording with the band. Alex is in a bunch of different projects, seems to be a very talented drummer. He plays with acts such as Mekong Delta, for example. And I like a lot of the things he's doing behind the kit throughout the album. It feels just maybe at some places, especially the more anthemic power metal numbers, when you get to that big chorus moment, he might be slightly heavy-handed on this album, but again, it may just be a matter of the drums being a tad too loud in the mix. But if that's the worst thing I can say about this album, then we've got a really good one on our hands. I've played the album through a dozen times, and it doesn't feel like it's getting old. I'm not even close to putting it on the shelf yet, and I don't get the sense that these songs are going to become samey and just blend in with the rest of the Kamelot catalog. I think 6 months from now, if I'm not playing the album, I'll still be able to remember the songs pretty well and remember, oh yeah, those two are the ballads. Oh, this is the one that had that unique, different kind of style to it. So really happy to see that Kamelot's delivered a really strong album, one of their best in years. All right, before we wrap this up, I do want to make a couple of call to arms. So these are shout outs to some smaller releases that may be going under the radar that you might enjoy checking out. The first one is for a power metal band from Tokyo, Japan, named Galnerius. Apologies if I'm mispronouncing that. I couldn't find a pronunciation anywhere online. It seems to be a name the band may have made up. But Galnerius have been around since 2003 or so. They've released 16 studio albums in that time, so they're very prolific. Their new album is called Between Dread and Valor, and it came out at the start of March in 2023. The band's musical style is very much faster European power metal. Some reviews have compared them to Dragon Force, though I don't think they're playing at quite that same kind of over-the-top speed. The band definitely, though, also is unmistakably Japanese when you hear the vocal delivery, some of the other elements. It's very much what you'd expect, a band from Japan to bring to the power metal table. They do it quite well. I am not familiar with this band's back catalog, so I can't say how this one compares to other albums, but this seems like a really strong album and should appeal to a lot of power metal fans. If you've somehow missed this band like I have, this is the time to go check them out, Between Dread and Valor. Regretfully, it doesn't appear that the band has a presence on Bandcamp, so this one may be a little harder to track down, but certainly listen to it on YouTube, and if you like what you hear, find a way to purchase the album from the band and help support them. All right, for my second call to arms, something a little bit heavier. If you've made it through all this power metal stuff but are thinking, it's not quite heavy enough for me, may I offer you Denver, Colorado's Necropanther, which is a fantastic name for a band. I like that one quite a bit. Necropanther have released their fourth album. It's called Betrayal, and it came out early in March. It's an independent release, and this one is available on Bandcamp for folks to check out. This one has more of a thrash metal structure, maybe some blackened elements worked into the vocals here and there, some traditional metal elements too. The songs tend to be short, compact, high energy, really furious guitar work helping drive it all forward. And, the short songs going quickly from one to the other for the most part. The album packs a lot of punch. It hits hard, and it goes by pretty fast. I'm not familiar with the band's earlier albums. Reading up on the band a bit, I've seen a lot of reviewers compare them to the band Skeleton Witch and the better material from their catalog. What I know of Skeleton Witch, I didn't immediately hear the comparison in the vocals, but again, not being overly familiar with the album or the band, I may just be missing something. So yeah, if you're looking for something that sounds like, short, energetic songs, a lot of, fiery guitar work and, some more over-the-top vocals sounds appealing to you, by all means, go check out Necropanther's Betrayal. Sounds like a pretty cool album. All right, that is going to do it for this review. Until next time, everybody take care. And as always, keep banging your head and look for more reviews coming soon on the Heavy Metallurgy channel. Thanks.